Hello everyone, this is Jotto, and welcome back to the Shaman section of the Grand Tournament. First things first, we have the Totem Golem. The Totem Golem is a 2-mana 3/4 common with Overload 1 and Totem, which is actually a relevant creature type now, not just for, Totemic Might decks. Now, 2-mana 3/4? What? No, 7 mana, not 7 mana, 7 stats on 2 mana is not.
Yeah, I mean, Spider Tank was already a top tier arena card, and now you get it for 2 mana with a tribe that is now relevant because you have things like Tuskar Totemic and actually really just that, but still.
Well, yeah, but you also have a couple other random things that might come up in arena in particular, as we'll get to.
Yeah.
As far as constructed goes, Shaman needed a 2-drop.
It's going
This
every
is, yeah, very, very good 2-drop, and arguably one of the best cards in the entire set. Shaman, we're using Haunted Creeper before, which, yes, it's good with Flame Tongue. Yeah, we get it, but the point is it was a bit awkward late game. So, yeah, this is better. It's actually going to be a Yeti in a lot of situations, as we'll get to a little bit later with Mistcaller.
Yep.
But late game, 3/4 isn't that bad, especially considering you're in a class that often plays Defender of Argus or Flame Tongue Totems and things like that, which means that smaller minions are often a bit better for Shaman. Anyway, on to Ancestral Knowledge. Ancestral Knowledge is a 2-mana common spell with draw 2 cards, overload 2. This is Shaman's first straight card advantage spell. In fact, before you had to use Mana Tide really, but now you just have card draw, which is Shaman's only weakness, in fact, is card draw.
Yeah. You're going to get more mileage out of this card than you ever did out of Mana Tide Totem, that's for sure.
Oh, no question.
Yeah, and definitely, yeah, like you're not going to play it on turn 2, that's a given. But you're definitely going to play this to reload your hand later in the game after you spammed out a bunch of your little tickling creatures, and you'll be happy for it. And it's fine in arena as well. Again, later in the game, because in arena you have a lot of attrition battles that come down to top decking, and you get an ancestral knowledge.
This isn't a 2-drop. This is a sort of 2-mana 8-drop almost.
Right. Yeah,
you play this on turn. You play us on turn 8, 9, probably. I mean, control shamans always seem to end the curve at 6 or 7 somehow. They just always end up at 6. I don't know why. I guess because it's like a lot of your removal and such has overload and things like that, which lowers the curve a bit. Which means, yeah, you can use Ancestral Knowledge. That and Lava Shock is generally becoming better now. A little bit better with Elemental Destruction, as we'll get to later, for the heavy control shamans. And besides that, this also works as sometimes a turn 4 play just to boost your Unbound Elemental.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And in decks that run this card, you wouldn't be surprised to see Lava Shock actually see play now, with the introduction of this card, and later we'll get to Elemental Destruction, but it wouldn't be surprising.
Keep in mind, you do have a very, very sneaky 3 attack and 6 health 4-drop from VRM that everyone seems to have forgotten exists.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's another card which will help out a lot. That also curves with Totem Golem, by the way. You go Totem Golem into another 2-drop into Firecard Destroyer.
Yes.
Alright, on to the Walrus. Tuskar Totemic. Tuskar Totemic is a 3-mana common minion, 3/2 with Battlecry. Summon any random totem, as opposed to a random totem.
Yes.
Okay. Again, English be damned.
Yeah, they definitely emphasize the any so that people don't misconstrue this as only summoning hero power totems.
Yeah, I think they should have probably said any one random totem. That would have been a nice clarification there. Now, we did see this on stream, where someone got buried under totem golems.
Yeah, Amos.
Yeah, it was in fact a Mars, but the point is that it was just like Totem Golem, turn 1, turn 2, Totem, turn 3, Tuskar Totemic, summoning Totem Golem. And it's just like the fact that it can summon totem goals. Now, half the time you're getting the hero power ones, which are not amazing, but they're okay. And I still think that's worth it because you get a totem and you also get a 3/2, which is 2 bodies, bit of a side effect. It's not too bad. It's not on the good side of things, but it's not too bad. However, the other half of the time, you get Mana Tide, which draws you a card. You get Flame Tongue, giving you a 5/2 and something else buffed immediately. You get Totem Golem, you get Vitality Totem late game. There are actual totem cards. And these are all quite powerful. Now, Vitality Totem is probably the worst early game totem, but the best late game totem. Apart from maybe Mana Tide and Totem Golem, depending on the situation.
Right. Yeah, and even going back to the hero power totems, those as minions are probably worth 1 mana, right? Each, and getting a 3/2 is a 2 mana body. So getting the 2 mana body plus a 1 mana body
is worth it probably.
For 3 mana in 1 card is value. So at the lowest end, it's even value in a vacuum, and 50% of the time, you're getting more than your money's worth with the card.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a very, very powerful card. I don't think it's as strong as Totem Golem because it has a bit of randomness. It can be more powerful if it makes a Totem Golem. But the point is that it has some randomness to it, which is a bit sketchy. Something else it does do means you can get 2 of the same totem out with the hero power on turn 2. It also means that if you get a Searing Totem and they don't kill it, you don't have to, if you get a hero power, you can guarantee you're not getting a Searing Totem.
Right, yeah. Bloodlust is definitely going to be more popular in Shaman lists, without a doubt.
Maybe, yeah, we'll see. Alright, first rare, Healing Wave, 3 mana, restore 7 health on a spell. Joust, if it costs more, restore 14. Now, before anyone's like, oh my god, 14 healing. Anti-Killbot. Just saying, Anti-Killbot is a 3/3 in a class with Flame Tongue Totem and Defender of Argus as a common theme. And also it heals 1 more if you were to fail the Joust, and Shaman often has 2, 3, and 4 drops in their deck.
Yeah. Anti-Killbot's better in every Shaman constructed deck with the exception of Malagos Shaman. Malagos Shaman list will run this instead.
But Malagos Shaman is not exactly the most common.
Right. No. Yes, for sure. But yeah. So this card, it's not very. It's not going to see much play in constructed, nor in arena for that matter. But if you're feeling frisky with Malagos, then put this in there.
It's definitely one of the more overhyped spells.
Yeah.
Where a lot of people's like, oh my god, 14. I'm like, yeah, Anti-Killbot. It seems to be something that comes up a lot with healing. Yeah, Anti-Killbot is a good card. Anyway, on to the Draenei Totem Caller. Or is it Carver? Carver, yeah. The Draenei. 4 mana 4/4. Rare. Battle Cry. Gain +1/+1 for each friendly totem. Bad Frostwolf Warlord.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not as good as Frostwolf. I mean, they're probably as good as each other, but Frostwolf Warlord isn't good either, so...
I mean, in Arena, sure, play it. It's a 4-drop, and it might be a 5/5 or something. Constructed, stay away from this thing.
Yeah.
Anything else to really say?
That's pretty much it.
Alright. Thunder Bluff Valiant. 5 mana 3/6. Rare with Inspire. Give your totems +2 attack. Now, this does affect the totem summoned with the hero power, and it's permanent. The question is with this card, is it good enough? Now, the way I see this is that if it is good enough, it would probably be a one-off, and it would be a way of winning in Control Shaman really late game, because it doesn't look like a win condition. However, in late game Shaman situations, when you're both in top deck mode, the totems tend to live, which means Flame Tongue Totem becomes a win condition sometimes. It's quite funny. But the point is, Thunder Bluff is less likely to die when you're in top deck mode. You have more draws, so you don't have to have them dead in your hand. 3/6 is hard to kill, and just getting, honestly, 1 trigger out of him will force a brawl against Warrior.
Yeah.
Because you often have 4 totems on the board at once against Warrior. It's going to be a bit sketchy against something like Paladin, but it actually does let you beat the Paladin hero power late game with Thunder Bluff, because you can buff up your healing totems and things like that, and actually directly beat the Silverhand recruits, which is a fairly big deal sometimes.
Yeah, I think this is a very good card. I don't think it's too powerful, but I think it's powerful enough that I'm definitely going to put this into mid range and almost certainly Bloodlust Shaman decks. Not
Yeah.
completely sure about the Bloodlust Shaman decks yet about whether or not I'd put this in there, but in mid range Shaman, I would definitely put it in there.
Maybe. I think the way I see it is, I think if this were to only see play in one situation, I think it'd probably be a one-off in control decks, just as an easier way of closing out the game. Now, that's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that from my point of view, I think this is a very late game card because I'm not going to play us in turn 5. I think this is 7 drop or 8 drop or 9 drop personally. Because sometimes you'll want to make a totem then do something. So, yeah, that's the way I see it, but I think the card, as you said, is not too powerful. I think it's just strong enough to see some play. Arena-wise, I think this is not an all-star, but I think it's good.
Yeah, because one thing in construct that makes this card stronger than it may seem is that typically when you're playing against Shaman, they have more than enough things that you have to deal with on any given turn, right? Like just by the existence of a Flame Tongue Totem plus any large minion, those are already two things you have to find ways to deal with that can make your turns inconvenient. Um, Thunder Bluff Valiant just sort of joins the party, right?
Yeah. Also,
And
the threat of this card would mean that they're going to have to start throwing cards at your hero power totems.
right, exactly. And what's the thing about this card though that makes me just a little bit skeptical about it is that it definitely seems to help those matchups which Shaman already wins, right? Like Shaman
That's
already
true.
beat Warriors convincingly enough, and Shaman's already favored against Druids, at least in my view. And this card definitely helps both of those matchups, but Shaman didn't really need much help in those matchups.
I think Paladin and Priest are the main ones that this helps, in my opinion. Because it doesn't get Cabaled, and they're probably already have used Shadow War Paints if they're playing them. Doesn't
Yeah.
really die to a Shadow Madness, ever. Has 6 health. So the point is, I think it helps against Priest, because Priest is an atrocious matchup for Shaman. Like, anyone who's played Shaman hates Priests.
Right.
They really do. But I see what you mean. It does sort of help the good matchups already. I don't know. It often depends on where the matchups are now. Because keep in mind, you're
Right.
playing Totem Golem, Tusker, Totemic, you're playing a bit more draw power, things like that. We'll have to see. Not to
Yeah.
mention with Mistcaller in your deck, if you're playing it as a win condition, it's actually a 4/7, which means it is completely immune to Priest.
Yes, and warrior decks are going to change. Druid decks, I'm not sure how much Druid decks are going to change, but yeah, there's going to be some difference.
I don't even think this helps Druid that much, because Druid is more decided as like, once it gets to like turn 11 or something and the Shaman is above 15 life, you might as well concede.
Mhm.
Like, you're not winning. Unless you're Ramp Druid without like a Viana, you might be able to get enough board, I don't know. But with Elemental Destruction, I think that's actually brutal if you're playing as control deck now as Druid. We'll have to see. But anyway, I like the card. I'm not sure exactly how much play it'll see, but I think we can both agree it'll see some.
Yes, for sure.
Alright, Elemental Destruction. I've mentioned this card a few times. 3 mana, Shaman Epic Spell, deal 4 to 5 damage. Yes, it's random, and yes, that's annoying. To all minions, including yours, that's a drawback there. Overload 5! That is the highest overload on any card. That makes Neptune's overload look mediocre. That's
Yeah.
crazy. Now, this is one of the reasons I said Lava Shock will probably see play, because you can actually play 5 mana to kill basically any board position you can conceive.
Right, and you're not going to play this without Lava Shock. That's not even a question.
Exactly, because you're probably playing in a deck with some other random stuff. But the point is, the reason I like this card is a lot of people are like, this will not replace Lightning Storm. You're correct, it will not replace Lightning Storm. But control shamans, heavy control shamans, often have this issue where Lightning Storm just doesn't get the job done because they don't have, like, Lightning Storm is a reasonably heavy hitting spell, but you need Spell Power, Totem, or Azure Drake to make it truly a proper board wipe half the time. Elemental Destruction, honestly, late game, your opponent goes nuts with a Quartermaster and you laugh at them.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's the thing. That's what Shaman's. That's one thing that Shaman was severely missing. Because like you compare Lightning Storm to cards like Consecration, and you'll say, okay, well Lightning Storm seems to be at least on par with Consecration, but the difference
you don't have
is,
equality.
exactly, the difference is that Paladins have combos that actually let it clear the board, right? Warriors have Brawl. Other classes have ways to deal with it. Mages have access to cards like Flame Strike, which are much stronger, but Now with Elemental Destruction, you don't need to have a combo with spell.
No, I would
There.
say this is a one-of because as a two-of, it's too clunky. However, with Arcane Knowledge, I think you can fit one in your control decks. Now, when I'm saying control, I'm not referring to higher end, like curve. For those of you that don't play a lot of Shaman, Shaman is a bizarre class to look at deck building wise because Shaman control is actually something that just plays a bunch of early drops and mid-game drops, but the thing is they're not using them to attack. They're using them to keep the board clear so that you can value your opponent to death. Their win condition is quite literally value. And that's how you win. And that's actually one of my favorite decks to play, but I guess that shows something about me, doesn't it? But anyway. So, yeah, Shaman kind of plays that way, and Shaman control-y decks that don't really focus on winning the game in any particular way, and they just kind of stick the last threat and just hit them a few times, will actually like Elemental Destruction. As I said, Elemental Destruction, Lava Shock, that's upwards of 7 damage to one target and 4 to 5 to everything else.
Yeah,
For 5!
yeah, it's going to be one of the most effective board clears in the.
Yeah. It clears your overload as well. It basically has no drawback at that point, and because of Ancestral Knowledge, it also means that Druid was already not a good matchup when it came to versing Shamans. It wasn't particularly good. You had to brush them down, and then Anti-Keelbot would screw you over. Now you can't even build a board.
Yeah, this card is one piece to what could make Control Shaman possible. I'm
Yeah,
not sure how close it was before,
a
but
proper control Shaman. Like Shaman, control-y styles of Shaman were always very close, they just never quite were there. I think that was more to do with the draw power, and I think now that we've got draw power, that matters a lot. But Elemental Destruction, something else by the way, if Shaman had any issues with handlock, which they didn't, but if they had any issues with handlock, now a Lightning Storm, now 2 board wipe spells, kills every giant.
yes.
All of them. You can't even play them anymore. That's kind of gross, actually. I mean, I know that I'm praising this a lot. The way I see it is that this will be a one-off. It's too clunky to run 2. I think you play 1 with 2 Lightning Storms, and that's that. In control-y Shamans that are more focused on building their board up slowly with totems than anything else, so they don't mind losing their totems because you're not really losing cards, you're just losing turns.
Right. Yeah, much slower. Yeah, you're not going to be running a lot of the smaller stuff for sure.
Now, in Arena, I would actually pick this fairly high because we've seen how powerful Flame Strike is when they clear your board, and I would not play this in turn 3, but the point is, later in the game, you punish them for extending. They're not going to play around this like they do Lightning Storm because it's an epic.
Yeah, the Overload doesn't hurt you quite as much because by the time you're playing Elemental Destruction, they don't have the kind of hand that has them reflood the board.
Exactly.
So you can live with having a turn behind Temple by simply playing a 2-drop after playing Elemental Destruction, and then you'll be all right.
Exactly. Not to mention, it only takes 3 mana on the turn you play it. 5 mana is a big drawback.
Yeah.
However,
Yes.
you can still play
Yeah,
stuff.
you can play this and develop, right?
Yeah, like for 9 mana, you can actually go Elemental Destruction, Fire Elemental. That's a good combo. So that's stuff you can do. And if you really want to do some crazy board wipe, then playing Azure Drake, go nuts. 5 to 6 is a lot. But anyway, good card, not insanely good, but playable. Playably good. Charged Hammer. Oh, another epic weapon. This is not a good sign. 4 mana, 2/4 with Death Rattle. Your hero power becomes deal 2. I don't like this. In Arena, I think it's good. In Constructed, I don't like it at all.
It's definitely a Control Shaman card, right? Easily. Without question. The 2 damage is targeted, right?
I know, but I don't like it in that. And oh my god, I'm getting spammed on.
Yeah. The problem is that it has... One problem I have with it is that a 2/4... It feels like it makes it clunky if you also want to play Doomhammer. It falls right into the Harrison turn, so your opponent's likely going to draw 3 cards off of it. It makes it a bit awkward to play. Now the Death Rattle, on the other hand, I can definitely get behind in a Control Shaman list. So that's what makes it difficult for me to evaluate this card. Is that I like the Death Rattle a lot. I just don't like it being a 4-mana 2/4.
The problem I have with this is that the hero power replacement would be very good in most classes. However, It's a control shaman card because it takes forever to get the death rattle.
Right.
It takes 4 turns of swinging, which is a long time. Or you replace it with Doomhammer or something, but control shamans don't tend to play Doomhammer anyway. The problem I have with it is that one of the strengths of later game shaman is actually the totems. Like, having extra removal, not so much an issue. Your totems turn into 2 damage on their own anyway.
Yeah, but that was one of the strengths of late game shaman when they're not running a lot of late game threats, right? So like it's just going to be very different. Like this hero power scales better into late game than the shaman hero power because it just chunks way more of your opponent's health percentage wise.
Not against. It's way worse against warrior.
Yeah, it's worse against warrior.
In fact, I actually think that if you have a charged hammer, the warrior's celebrating because it changes an almost unwinnable matchup into a favored one because they don't care about 2 damage. It doesn't kill anything.
Yes, but it's largely difficult for most classes to beat control warrior and a control mirror anyway.
Shaman stomps it. Like, utterly destroys it. It's like an 80% matchup.
But you're talking about different archetypes of shaman, right?
No, I mean in general. Shaman annihilates warrior. They can't deal with totems.
Yeah, but just because like a different archetype makes what was a previously strong matchup now a bad one doesn't make the archetype bad, right? Because
but
change.
What does charged hammer improve? Keep in mind you have to swing with it continuously, which means you're spending 4 mana to do this. You're also maybe damaging yourself through this thing to actually catch up a bit in the fact that it takes 4 mana to play. And on top of that, I can't think of a matchup it improves that actually matters.
It helps the paladin matchup for sure.
Yeah, I don't know if it helps it enough though, because if they play Justicar Trueheart, you're actually screwed.
Well, I mean, you can say that about most paladin matchups after they play Justicar Trueheart.
Yeah, I know, but the point is you can't beat it. It does not help Paladin that much at all. I think Paladin still just annihilates you because most of their threats still are... You can't kill with this thing. In fact, Muster for Battle becomes a problem.
I think that you're thinking too much about how mid-range Shaman currently matches up against a lot of these classes instead of what a new Control Shaman list would look like and how that matches up with a lot of those decks.
Yeah, but I have played many Control Shamans before that actually do play heavy spell lines and things like that, and I still, its matchups are not that different. They're slightly different, but not that different.
Yeah, but those Control Shaman decks weren't running Elemental Destruction. They weren't running, Ancestral Knowledge, right? And then now, Elemental Destruction and Ancestral Knowledge makes it easier for you to run larger guys and have you be in better positions when you play them than you were before. Like the matchups change almost entirely, and I think that Charged Hammer fits in well with that. Now I'm not saying that Charged Hammer is really good because I'm not sold on it being a 4.
I think the problem with it is that you won't be able to use your new hero power for ages. Like, you'll have to wait till turn 8. And at that point, you swung with it 4 times, your weapon locked up, you swung with it 4 times, your weapon locked up, but the main problem is that you get it on turn 8. Then, if you're against a control deck, your new hero power is actually worse than the old one because you can't use it to deal with big threats. Whereas the totems actually can be used to deal with big threats, and it's actually one of the reasons why Shaman is good against big threats, is because Rag feels like the stupidest thing in the world when he keeps hitting totems.
But it's much better against mid-range decks, which it feels like that's closer to the direction that this set is going to take a lot of these classes.
I think Shaman's going to annihilate mid-range decks. I don't think you need Charged Hammer for that.
Well, in a control list you would. Yeah.
Why? Seriously, I'm genuinely saying, why would you need it against mid-range decks? You have 3 board wipes in your deck, and you have Fire Elemental, the king of mid-range trading, and Mistcaller, and Totem Golem makes you a better 2-drop than they do late game. You get so much value just from, other stuff in mid-range matchups. Shaman traditionally has 2 weaknesses. Heavy aggro, and, Paladin and Priest. But the main point is heavy aggro. They have issues stalling heavy aggro. Mid-range has never been an issue for them. Apart from, Druid always won with the combo, and if they couldn't win with the combo, they just couldn't win. But I just don't see I don't see Charged Hammer just providing you with anything really. It provides you with something, but not. It just doesn't feel warranted. It's a bit like playing. I don't know. It's a bit like playing anti-Heal Bot and Priest. Like it helps with aggro, but you already have a lot of healing.
Again, I don't mean to I don't mean to misrepresent my point on Charged Hammer because again, I'm not sold on the card yet, but I do think that it fits relatively well. Now, as far as those mid-range matchups are concerned, I still think that when you say things like how Shaman typically deals with things, that speaks to Shaman list that we are currently seeing, and we're talking about a Shaman list that hasn't been seen yet. Now, yeah, you're going to have 3 board clears, along with like the ancestral knowledge, etc., and the totem golems most likely. But that doesn't mean that doesn't mean that you're going to have enough goods to actually win the game, right? Because again, like the elemental destruction, we're talking about a combo with that card, right? Because you almost need to combo that with a lava shock in order to actually make it through.
We'll see, but I'm on the other side of this. I honestly don't think it's worth the space. I do see Shaman decks already have ridiculous space issues. Like they have to cut like genuinely insane cards, and now you're gonna have to cut even more. So I don't know. We'll have to see. I've got a feeling it's not going to make the cut. Like with a lot of the new cards, you have to cut a lot of very powerful cards already. Mm-hmm. So it's competing with Shaman cards. The main thing. Shaman cards are in general above average because they had a lack of draw power, which they don't currently, which kind of scares me a bit. But yeah, I don't think it's going to make the cut. We'll have to see though. I mean, obviously it's just predictions before testing.
Yeah.
We will have to see. Now, onto a card I think we will agree with here. Mistcaller, 6 mana 4/4. It is the legendary Battlecry. Give all minions in your hand and deck +1/+1.
This card is bonkers.
Jeez. How
bonkers.
does Shaman ever lose a late game ever again?
Yeah, this card is ridiculous. Like, this card is absolutely crazy.
If you play Mistcaller and you don't get punished for it right there, you have won the game.
Yeah.
There's no way anyone can compete with you with this. I mean,
like your opponent needs to win the game within 2 turns after you play Mistcaller.
Basically.
Yeah.
And you can play it on turn 10 and play with something else. What's kind of insane about this is it gives it to your hand as well, which means you can hold certain minions in your hand. But it turns totem golems into yetis. It turns totemics into 4 3s that summon extra bodies. And those are your low drops.
Yeah. And it's not even, you're not even incentivized to keep minions in your hand, right? Like if you have Mistcaller early and you have other minions in your hand to play, you're still gonna play them. Like Mistcaller is just gonna hit everything in your deck and you'll be okay with it.
Yeah, I think it's a bit awkward the Fire Elemental gets BGH, but
that's like the only thing.
It's pretty much the only thing. I mean, as I said, Thunderbluff Valiant becomes an absolute monster because it basically becomes an unkillable win condition late game once everyone's in top deck mode, and it just in general has so much value on one card. Also, if you get to, someone made the joke which was like bounce replay. Also, if a mage unstable portals this, I feel so sorry for you.
Yeah. You
are screwed.
Mage unstable portals just about any of these legendaries.
Especially this one though, because it's like turn 3, 4, 4, which is already above curve by a decent chunk.
Right.
And then the rest of their stuff is massive. Yeah. Good luck dealing with that. Imagine playing as Mech Mage with Spider Tanks or Yetis.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to be fun. But, or 3/3 Mad Scientist. Ugh. But, yeah, this card is absolutely insane. It's also one of those mega bombs in Arena, and your opponent is going to be crying if you play this thing.
Mm-hmm. Very
powerful card. Shaman got some incredibly strong cards. They make up for Rogue, that's for sure. Anyway, so unless you have anything else to say about the Mistcaller and its insanity?
Nope, it's going to be everywhere. It's good.
Yeah, it's very good. It's definitely the best of the 3 Shaman legendaries.
Yep.
Anyway, thank you for watching. Stay tuned for the next one, which will be Warlock, and then after that we have Warrior, and that will be the entire set review, so stay tuned for that.